right, we'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Livingston Parish Council, the regular meeting, June 14, 2018. Miss Sandy, you want to call roll? Or, no, let's do invocation first. Miss Sandy, I think you got this for Talbot.
Pray for your perfect peace in your life, and your help council members, and your lives will have to Lord, please help us. All of the things happening all over the world, Lord, you know. Help us walk throughout this in your name. Amen.
And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Turn it off or mute it. Also, we have public input. We come to one of our agenda items that you'd like to speak on. Please come to the podium, state your name and your address. We'll give you your time to speak. Just want to let everyone know that if everyone's here to speak on the same item, you start repeating yourself, we'll stop it. So you have a group here. Make sure you have someone that's going to touch on the things that you want to touch on. And give everybody 3 minutes to speak. No presentations tonight. Okay, item 8, adopt the minutes for May 24, 2018 Juban Crossing Economic Development District meeting. Can we do these together? All right. Also, May 24, 2018 regular meeting of the council. Motion from Mr. Gerringhouse to accept both. Seconded by Mr. Talbot. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 9, Acadian Ambulance. Mr. Metz.
Mr. Chairman, I come before you tonight. Annually, we come before you for permit, and we've submitted the packet, and we have all the required items that were turned in addition to the fees, and we're here tonight to ask for you guys to grant us a permit to operate for the following year.
And just so everybody knows, Ms. Sandy said that she's received everything that she needs from it.
I'll second that.
Motion from Mr. Lawson, Mr. Gerdenhouse. Comments from the council.
I just wanted to ask, you and I talked in the back earlier about the response rates and everything, and looking at some of the stuff, I realized the area I represent, Watson's about 85%, which is over the 80% threshold, yet in truly it's probably about a 73% response rate, because you get to add back denials over 12% of what the contract says, the refusals. So I guess what I want to say is that even though they're contractually, the contract is, they're meeting all the terms of the contract, make no mistake, Albany's, what are you, 84% or something like that out there? So in essence, you probably about 72%. And it's not I think we just need to be aware that even though they're showing to be over 80%, they're not. And it's really not Acadian's fault. The reason the contract set at 12, because we have a high refusal rate in Livingston Parish, might have more to do with the way the dispatch is done and the fact that we've got some areas of the parish that doesn't have, trained EMTs. But I think it's something we need to all look at. How can we get the refusal rate down closer to the contract number so we have a true idea of what our response rate is? We very well could be, if we're only refusing 14% of the calls and we only add back 2, you're going to get a true. Now, what are we talking about? We've got 5 units in the parish. There's a supervisor, 4 units, and then 2 of them only operate from what? 6 to 6, 8 to 8. What's the hours on that other?
10 to 10 and 11 to 11.
You got 1 10 to 10, 1 11 to 11. So in essence, we've got enough. Looks like we have enough manpower, but if we're sending a Acadian to somebody that doesn't need them, that can be treated by volunteer fireman or paid EMT at one of these stations, and somebody else has a heart attack, we're not utilizing the resources the best. And so it sounds. I mean, it's my feeling that we probably need to sit down and have. I think we got a couple of committees that are already set up to handle this board. That we need to sit down and set some protocol with how we handle this situation, so that we don't dispatch Acadian every time there's a bump, and then that way when they're truly needed, those resources will be more readily available. Because it sounds like we're utilizing our resources in a manner that, I mean, y'all go to a lot of stuff that you don't need to go to. Am I fair in saying that?
Chairman, if I might address, what he speaks about is what we call refusals. Okay, and way back 12 to 14 years ago, when I worked on the original committee that wanted to draw up a contract for response times and everything. One of the issues back then that still exists today was the high number of refusals. In other words, these are calls you go to and you get there and the patient does not want to be transported. So you utilize your resources, but you don't do a transport, and as you all know, there's no monetary exchange of money with Acadian. We're here freestanding. So in that, 12 to 14 years ago, we explained that, hey, look, these refusals are really high. We need you guys to help us get them down. Well, actually, that still exists today. What was happening back then still happens today, is that we get ambulance calls knowing that what we're going to is not somebody wanting to go to a hospital, but we're being called to come out there to do a report to show that they didn't want to go. I think a lot of that has to do with, as you said, the protocol on the front end when the call comes in, identifying, does that person want to go to the hospital, or are they just calling to make a report, they've been in an accident and they want the police to come out? Is it also that maybe the emergency responders go to these and they don't want to hang their department out to dry, and they want something to back them up because they're there? And there's a lot of burden, there's a lot of liability, and I understand that. And I agree with you totally. We said it back then, I say it today. We're here to work with you guys. We are your contractor, and we want to provide the service that you want us to provide. We want to do the best job we can. And if we can group together, I'm all about that. We're willing to do that.
And so I think what we're looking at is we've got a situation where that I know some areas of the parish. I mean, District 4's got paid people. District 5's got paid people. I don't know. It might be on your side that everybody's volunteering, so it's kind of hard to dispatch, in certain situations because you don't know if there's somebody there. But if we could take those areas that have paid firemen or EMT, you know what I'm saying, and better utilize that resource that we have, and not task Acadians so much, that by creating some protocol to do that. Jeff, you sit on that committee. Y'all probably need to look at meeting and sitting down with Acadian and addressing some of their concerns about overutilization of their assets, But that's going to have to go to 911 because 911 is going to have to institute whatever the protocol is. But, it's something that, look, I'm a fat boy up in Watson, and I just soon know they get there 95% of the time within the time allotted.
I would say involve all parties, because I can assure you, if it happens for us, there are other agencies that it's probably also happening to. And we as a team should work together to solve this issue, not just Acadian, or not just the fire departments. We're a team. I mean, we're all together.
I think that was
the best we can to the residents. Right.
Maybe that's something we need to set up.
And maybe look at some of the other parishes, because in most other parishes, I'd say our average, and that's where we came up with this 12% way back when, was averaging about 12% compared to Livingston, which was 20 to 25%.
Good Lord. And so I just think we need to figure, and there's no doubt that if when a call comes to 911, if there's some protocol established, when Acadians, is dispatched. I think basically right now, when a call comes to 911 and there's a medical emergency, it's transferred to Acadians dispatch almost not, 100% of the time. And then our 911 call center's monitoring it, and then might dispatch a local fire department, when in essence we need to maybe do a better protocol on our end before we put it on Acadian, because their business with liability. If we hand it off to them, they pretty much have to send the ambulance because that's the only resource they have, and so they're going to have to respond. So every time we hand it to them, we know that they're going to be sending an asset. So we probably need to do a better job of when we hand it to them, making some determinations on our own. That was my reasoning, or I wanted to discuss this because I read the report and I looked at my area and I'm thinking, we really probably are making the time lot about 75% of the time, really. You know what I'm saying? But it looks better on paper. That's my whole reasoning for bringing this up. Okay.
And when you say we hand it off, you mean, are you referring to like the 911 call center?
Yeah, like the call center.
It's the sheriff's 911 call center.
Well, I think we have a 911 board, but they contracted with the sheriff's office to run the 911 center. So in essence, we appointed a 911 board. They contracted with the sheriff's office. So ultimately, the 911 calls are still the responsibility of the board. That members of this council appointed. So ultimately,
staffed by the sheriff.
But they contracted with the sheriff. So if the board's ultimately responsible for the running of the center. So they probably need to create a protocol that their contractor, the sheriff's office, with an institute. I mean, am I?
And I'm not aware of any meetings, unless maybe Justin does, but that have occurred since that 911 moved to the sheriff's department. And maybe it's time to review those protocols. Maybe some of the fire departments way back when didn't have the paid men to do
right.
The initial call, and they thought it best to come. It may be time to revamp and
well, and look, there are areas of the parish that the protocol is going to have to be evaluated based on what the situation with paid people and staff fire departments. There's no doubt about that. But there are other areas that have people at the stations 24/7. So depending on the level of their training, the protocol could maybe free up some assets of Acadia.
Or you say we should have different protocols for different areas of the parish?
Well, I think it's got to be. I mean, it's got to be different protocols, because if an area doesn't have an EMT in the area, they're going to have to syndicate it.
I would agree with that. Let me tell you why. In Mr. Jeff's area over there, his is all volunteer. And over in Tracy's area, he's probably got some paid men. Okay? So you give the call, an emergency comes in, or perceived emergency, and you give it to this guy. He's a volunteer service, so he doesn't have anybody that he knows is going to make it. It all depends on whether that volunteer is going to be there today or not. Sure. Compared to his, he knows he's got a paid man there. So in those situations, and the way we do it in other parishes, I see them do it, is that in those situations, although they're one parish, that area over there may want that protocol to come to us if it's medical, or to someone else if it's for sheriff or
But if I'm
fire.
not correct, I mean, no fire departments in this parish, correct me if I'm wrong, none of them transport to hospital. Is that true?
That's correct. But
So the only way to be transported to a hospital is through a gate.
That's correct. But what he's telling you, though, is to get that emergency responder to the scene quickly. Because unlike, he said we have the 5 ambulances, actually, sometimes it's more than that. We could have as many as 10 because we float constantly in the day. We're floating from Tangipahoa this way, float from East Baton Rouge, we float from St. Helena, we float from Ascension. But what you want to do in that situation, especially if it's a call at someone's home or an emergency on the roadside, you want to get the closest responder there that has maybe just a little bit of medical training to start that going until you get that ambulance there. And that's what these guys are talking about, is those emergency responders. And look, you've got some great emergency responders here in Livingston Parish. They do a tremendous job. And maybe in some of those areas like he's talking about where you have a paid man on duty, send him in a responder unit versus his. You may want that original call to come to us, and we in turn contact his volunteers to say, hey, you got a volunteer can come out and do something, because it is a long response here to down and
So
coming
doesn't
down.
the ultimate decision come up to the 911 operator who answers the call and is trained, or should be, to determine what needs to roll? Is it a police, a fire? Is it an ambulance? I mean, there's many things that they need to know, but that's the decision making right there, isn't it?
And they do. They make that determination right there. But to take it a step further, to get better utilization of those resources, maybe Jeff's department in Coyell, they have an algorithm where, okay, the dispatcher says, okay, it's a medical emergency. He could look at that, or the system's going to tell him, okay, they're volunteers. They want their calls to go to Acadian first, and the second call to go to the fire service. Over here, he's got a paid man that's medically trained. They have a response unit. That chief may say, I want my guys to get the first call, Acadian get the second call, because I can get my guys there, start some treatment until the ambulance arrives. Because his locale is much
And
closer.
then when the EMT gets there from the fire department, and they realize that it's going to be a no transport situation, then they can call Acadian off, and they don't utilize it. They don't run that resource all the way to the call. I mean, it's just the whole reason for setting up the protocol is, now that we've got these paid men at a lot of these stations, is to better utilize the asset. And then if let's say the paid guy out of Watson gets somebody's house and he realizes Acadian's needed, then he doesn't try to stop Acadian. He lets them come on. But if he gets there and realizes there's no need for Acadian, then he can cut them off, and then we don't have an asset.
So it's not automatic. It's not currently set up like that now.
No. And it's,
set up for them to come in.
yeah.
Where they make the call. A lot of times they're on that number.
And I tell you, it was way back when Don Wheat was on the council that we set all this up. So it's probably a good idea that we at least meet, if nothing more, to just go through it all and make sure everybody's on the same page.
That's something we can just make a recommendation to the 911 board to ask them to look into
I
this.
guess we need to set up a meeting with all of us.
The 911, Acadian, and the, what is that board? What's it called? What's that board?
Ambulance review.
Ambulance review. Yeah, just get all the groups together to talk about the issues so that we can, and the group needs to work together, because the fire department, the chiefs of every fire department need to be involved in there so they can tell them, look, I've got, between these hours and these hours, I've got people here, or I've got somebody there 24 hours a day, and they are EMT trained or they're not EMT trained, and what they can do and what they can't do. I don't think anybody's got any paid paramedics, but there are tons of those paid guys that are EMT trained. And so then when a call comes in, the dispatcher 911 center can look at that particular area. And it might be that we need to look at having some additional training on the employees at the 911 center so they can make some medical evaluation on their own by having a list of questions they can ask. Am I correct? That's what those...
Right.
Mr. Talbot, I think the best thing, and my name is Justin Cox, I'm the operations manager for this region, and dealing with other parishes and dealing with it in my parish, certain, is the protocol is what I think the true issue is, and that determining, if you need to go out there. Not so much into diving into the call itself, but deciding if there's someone calling in for a call of a bumper fender bender type thing in a parking lot, we will get that call, and knowing that there's no way possible that anyone is hurt. So I think the main thing to do, and the most cleanest thing for everybody that everybody would agree to, I'm talking about the firemen, everybody's afraid of getting sued. So I think the cleanest thing to do is to change in those protocols in which you would dispatch the calls out to. The ones that are not obvious, the ones that's just saying where they cannot conclude that the person is not hurt. We get a lot of calls like that on the interstate, and they'll tell them, and this is all over, by the way, it's not unique to Livingston, well, I can see nobody's hurt. And I think that if the policy decision is made collectively, number one, we can achieve reduce your concern much better. Number two is that on the actual refusals itself, if the departments would change their policy and let them get the refusals after they go out there, if they will allow them to get those refusals and cancel a Acadian ambulance to the call, that's going to help. And most any attorney will tell you, if we get out there, even if we out there, they're going to sue everybody anyway if there's a problem, if there's a true lawsuit. And that is one of the only reasons, other than a legit concern that somebody might be hurt, and the professionals or the higher trained are not there to evaluate that patient. But if it's a situation that is so obvious that we don't need an ambulance, advanced life support out there, if they can determine that and go ahead and cancel, get the refusal, my experience in looking over your stats, I'm the one that does your stats, is that those numbers would drop significantly. Plus, I run the calls here. We had a run around a couple of weeks ago about emergency calls and see what we actually are needed to and what we're not. And we're called, just come check the patient out. And that is truly unfiltered. That's what you're dealing with.
I think it's obvious that there's enough assets. I think they're not utilized efficiently, and I think that's what we've got to get to.
Like the other day, I was in Fort Benson, a little fender bender. But nobody there. I called the chief, said, a little fender bender. He said, yeah, I just got the dispatch. But in 3 minutes, Hayden had 2 ambulances come right by. They were sent out there for nothing. That's not free. It cost them money. And I think it's something we need to work on.
It utilizes the resource, not just for us. I mean, your fire department, they're utilizing their resource to get there. And a lot of times, like you said, on the front end, it's being called in. Look, we don't need anybody. We just want to report that this is an accident.
Right behind them. So everybody got the call at the same time for just a little minor fender.
We're open for a meeting if you want to get that.
We'll get that. We'll get that.
So we need to I want to make a motion for the annual permit renewal. All right. Is there any more discussion? All right. Ms. Sandy, call the vote, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Livell?
Yes.
Mr. Akin?
Yes.
Mr. Matt? Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
The second part of my presentation is just we're up before you to request your permission to conduct our annual membership drive that allows a family to subscribe or pay for a membership, covers husband and wife, children at home up through the age of 21 while it's still attending school, and it's for a cost of $79. But the biggest bang for the buck is for those Medicare recipients who don't have supplemental insurance, because it affords them a 30% discount on ambulance bills. So with a Medicare recipient, what happens is they already get a reduced rate because we participate in the Medicare program, so that bill is reduced to the Medicare rate, and then the Medicare recipient pays 20% copay. If Medicare deems it's medically necessary, they pay 80%. Well, in that situation, if they purchase the membership, what happens is, with the discount, they don't get any out-of-pocket bill from us. So it's really a great membership for those who are on Medicare, and those who actually have the supplement. We also sell those memberships, but we do it at a reduced rate, knowing that most times Medicare and their supplement will pick it up. But we presently have 748 members in Livingston Parish. Company-wide, we have a total of 22,000. In their membership, they carry to any area we cover, whether it's one of the parishes in Louisiana or any of the counties in Mississippi or Texas. So I just wanted to request your permission to conduct our annual membership, and in your packet you should have what I supplied. We also have the surety bond that protects, in the event that we were to leave the parish, you have the surety bond so that you get the money back to those people.
Motion from Mr. Talbot, second from Mr. Hayward. Authorize the annual membership drive. Sandy, call for vote.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Little?
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Allred?
Yes.
Mr. Washburn?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate servicing with the parish of Livingston and the residents here, and if we can ever be of service to any of you or your constituents, or you get any concerns, any needs, please bring those to us. We look forward to meeting with you.
All right, at this time, we're going to move on. We're going to go ahead and take care of the addendum. We have addendum A1. This is to discuss the installation of sewer lines in the right-of-way of the vicinity of Garney Hood Road, Melinda Lane, Priscilla Lane. Mr. R.C. Bubba Harris.
Is going to be speaking. You'll state your name,
Yes,
and address.
My name is Gene Higginbotham. I live at 11901 Melinda Lane, the back section of single acre subdivision. And me and Mr. Troy Schultz will be speaking of some of the concerns having to do with this. First and foremost, Mr. Bubba, appreciate you getting us on the docket for today. And everyone else, appreciate y'all's time to hear us out with some of the concerns we have. First one is how and why was our servitude granted for the road to run a pressurized sewer line through our subdivision? None of us have utilities to support 321 houses for a new development. We don't quite understand how that happened, and we'd like some more details on that. The other thing is we've been promised 2 times prior, and it's been a continual withdrawal of providing the existing residents with the utilities, and most of these people have been back there for 35 or 20 or 25 years, still haven't been able to get what our tax dollars have been paying for. Second question I had is, who is actually paying to run this line? And we've heard 2 different answers on this. We've heard one, that it was the developer. Second, we've heard that it was bond money. We would like to know the true situation on that, because if it's bond money especially, we would like to know why we didn't get allocated in that. And if it's the developer, then why weren't they, I guess, having a meeting with to discuss about them also? If they're using our property to run this line, then they should have been there to help us get what we needed as well. The road servitude is another issue. If the parish owns the road, and the way I understand they do, servitude was given over to the parish to maintenance our road. which is Priscilla and Melinda Lane, that used to be a private road. The residents actually paid to do the first layer of asphalt on it several years back. And anyway, at this point, we understand it's a parish road. The question I have is, we had the parish come out, do some measuring on the road, and in my opinion, myself and my neighbor, where they're coming through her yard, they're not coming through mine, but they have to cross private property, because the parish owns the road, but the road isn't there. The road stops before our property line, approximately 13 feet before our property line. And if you look at the numbers that the city has in their computer system for the road that they own, there's a little over a 200-foot discrepancy of actual versus what's reported. So we believe that that section is still private property and that the parish doesn't own the servitude there. It's right now on file, there's 1,094 feet of Melinda Lane that's on the file. In actual, it's 1,334 feet. And even then, it's 13 feet shy of our property line. So there's nothing there. So how can you own it if it's not there? Second concern is the actual responsible party of this pressurized sewer line. We're being told that, you know, the parish is responsible now, and this is where the gray area comes up. If it's the developer doing it, they're responsible for a year. If it's the parish doing it, they're responsible for a year. Then it's going to be taken over by the city of Denham Springs. We haven't found a soul with the city of Denham Springs that knows they're acquiring this. So if they're going to be responsible for the maintenance, and if something catastrophic happens, who do we need to go to? You know, we need to know who that person is. And why don't they know, I guess, is my question, because, you know, that, to me, that should have been something that was already agreed upon, or at least met upon. The other part of this, sorry.
1 second.
Okay. Second part of this is, if something does happen, if we have a ruptured line, we have a leak, and it contaminates, we're all on water wells. If this contaminates our drinking water, we can't live in our homes. Has any engineering calculations been done or anything of that sort for a contingency plan for us if that happens? You know, we have 31 residents back there that's going to have to go somewhere else. Has any of that been put in place? And the other thing is if the parish, and I'll finish with this, if the parish can grant our servitude to a developer for utilities that we are refused to tie into, this subdivision is going to have city water, city sewer, plus this pressurized line. Then why can't the developer and the parish work together to give us those utilities as well? Because, gentlemen, I'll be looking at 7 or 8 backyards at my property line. We're not talking about that much distance or that much cost to tie us into the same utilities that they're getting. We've been there for 35 years paying taxes. There's nobody even moved in this place yet, so y'all aren't going to get any taxes until they sell this property. You know, so we feel like if we can give up what's ours, they can help us get what we've been trying to get for 35 years. Thank y'all for your interest in this, and we appreciate y'all hearing us out.
New development in the city limits?
No.
So,
But there are areas of the parish that the city of Denham covers, meaning that they've got the infrastructure to deal with it. So there have been areas that the city services. The city services Jubin Park, the shopping center, because they had the infrastructure in place to deal with it. So consequently, there are areas outside of the city that the city of Denham services, just like the city of Livingston services some areas outside of the city.
well, I mean, it's the same. So the development isn't in the city limits. It's not.
No.
Okay.
So
Your May Road.
So in essence, what's happened is the city of Denham, I'm sure they asked the parish at some point in time in the design process long ago to utilize the utility servitude to run a utility. That's what the 15 feet on each side of the road is, utility servitude. So it's drainage, utility, whatever. So in essence, the parish granted the city the right to do it. Now, you see it all the time where developers run the force main and then dedicate that force main back to the city after it becomes in service in lieu of
maintenance.
Well, basically what happens is they'll run the force main, give the asset to the city, and then anything they did over and above what would normally be required, they'll get credit sometimes for with respect to impact fees. Now, Bubba, you're on the City of Denham board. Do they charge impact fees for new developments?
It depends on how it was done, really. If they came down and just like with them, the city went to them and got right away. They would have ran that sewer line and water line in there. There was going to be no impact fees out into that.
But now there are two right-of-ways in that subdivision. There's the initial 15-foot right-of-way beside the road that's a parish utility servitude. Then there's an additional 15-foot dedicated to run a gravity line at some point in time in the future. Am I correct?
Well, not really. You have 25 feet from the center of the road out each way. All right, then the people in there gave 15 feet for their sewer line, which is on the outside of 25 feet.
Kirsten, that road back there, what's the servitude on? Do you know offhand?
I don't know offhand, but I know the typical parish is a 50-foot right of way with 15-foot servitude on either side. I don't know for this road specifically. At one time private.
Right, but I think when it was given, they overlaid it to bring it to standard, which would make it have a 50-foot servitude from the center line of the road, 25 both directions, which in essence, roads are 20-foot wide, right?
Yeah, usually. So in this case, if it's a 50-foot right of way, the right of way is different than a servitude. Right of way is not would have been given to the parish. So anything government.
I got a question.
This development, it went through parish planning?
Yes.
Okay. And so, do we have the answers to these questions? I mean, laid out. Can you answer some of these questions, Sam?
All of them. I'm sure I can answer quite a few of them after I have talked to folks here during this situation.
But it's a shame that the engineer that designed the system is not here tonight, but basically Fairbairn's a design engineer for the Bubba, you're on that board. Is Fairbairn the design engineer for this project? So in essence, my understanding is that they're laying a force main in a utility right-of-way, servitude, whatever. I mean, so
yeah, I believe it's in the right-of-way.
Okay, right-of-way.
Well, what we're being told is they're using the road servitude to run this line.
Road right-of-way, which is
like the pipe that's going in now is on my neighbor on the other side of the street's road. On my side of the street is the utility servitude that you're talking about. But it's 25 feet is what we're being told. Our properties meet in the middle of this road. It's 25 feet either side.
So the parish has 15 feet on both sides of the road to run drainage, utilities, whatever that needs to be run within that fiber optics, phone line, power, whatever. So in essence, there seems to be some discrepancy about the length of the road and the length of the servitude. That's something that's the first that. And that's something that might have to be addressed in a survey at a later date. But initially, if the servitude runs all the way to the other subdivision, then or to that whatever, then they're laying the pipe where it's supposed to be laid. Now, as to why the city of Denham hasn't come and put a gravity drain line in there for y'all, I think you got to go speak to the city of Denham, because they're the ones servicing that area. It's not the parish. And so, you know, I would suspect that if that line's being laid to service a new subdivision, then that developer is paying for that line. I mean, that's a wag, but I mean, most of the time that's what happens.
Well, it's not the parish. Can we answer that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not the parish. I mean, it's a different utility utilizing the servitude for what it's for. They come to us all the time. You know, people come to us and want to lay fiber optics in our servitude, and the gas company might want to lay a gas line in the right of way or whatever. And so this isn't an unusual situation. I think the question is, where does the right of way end, and is there a section that doesn't connect? I can't answer that question without a survey, and some design engineer would have felt that they, you know, based on the plat, they would know, you know, where that right of way ran. But and then why y'all don't have gravity, why y'all don't have sewer there would be a question for the, you know, the Denham Springs, the city, which runs that sewer department, because they would be the ones responsible for running that gravity line in that second right of way that y'all have given them for y'all to tie into. So, I mean, I don't know of any other questions. I mean, those are the questions I think that I gathered from you, that I can almost assure you that if the city's laying it, they would know about it. And so it's really not a situation where you could lay that. I guess they could lay it, because we've laid some lines to get to areas to tie into much subdivisions, but typically what these sewer districts do is, if the developer will lay the line for them, they will give them credit against impact fees at a later date. That way the utility doesn't have to bond it or doesn't have to expend money that they don't, you know, normally have. So I guess to answer the question is that, you know, why you don't have it would need to go to the city of Denham. And then so far as if they're crossing your private property would be a matter, I think, for an attorney to address. What do you?
Yeah, that's an engineering legal question.
Right.
Without
I mean,
having anything to look at, I can't give you an opinion.
You'd have to, I mean, obviously the design engineer felt that the servitude or right of way ran where they're laying the pipe, and if you feel it's not, then it's time to get a.
Well, no, sir. I mean, I agree. What they're calling the servitude for the road is where they're putting the pipe, and which brings up another concern I was going to mention first and lost track of. But they're running part of this pipe down our open ditches, and when we left to come here, some of our neighbors were out there with shovels because they got water backing up to their houses right now, because all of this dirt is filling our culverts. But
that's a problem during construction. I mean, I'm not saying it's a, you know, that's just part. But
the way I understand, yes, they are in their road servitude. But my question was specifically is, the reason the road servitude is there is for maintenance, upkeep of the road. Am I correct?
It's also a utility service.
It's also that
it is. But the actual road stops, the ditches stop before it gets to the end of the property line. And all that I thought was in conjunction with the actual road.
Well,
Sam, do we have any type of drawings? I mean, what does it say? Where the servitude's at? All this good stuff.
Yes, we do. This is the first I've heard about private property. We asked Calvin Fairman, when it first started the project, to go out and mark the property line.
And they did.
To make sure
and they did.
that we didn't get in, or they didn't get, I always say we, they didn't get into these folks' private property. And they did that.
They did, and I confirmed every measurement on the map.
This is the first I've heard as far as having to cross private property. They, you know, without your permission, if that's private property, that's your property.
Well, that's
to be determined by the attorney's law.
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
That's a very legitimate question. You do have maps showing the right-of-ways and the servitudes and the additional 15-foot that these folks give away a while back. And I invited the attorney. He called. He said, "Can I come see what you've got?" He came. And he sat for about 30 minutes trying to dissect it. Well, I haven't seen him. So I just assumed everything was legit as far as right away, where the lines were being run. This is the first I've heard about having to cross private property. We always have problems with lengths of road, in our book and what's actually coming.
And that's my concern.
We have that.
I can tell you.
That's a legitimate concern. That will have to be determined by a professional engineer.
I guess you'd have to take the deed to your property, and based on any filings at the clerk of court's office with respect to adding these servitudes to it, and have an attorney that specializes in that evaluated to determine if they think that the servitude stops at some point in time. That's what I would do, and then if it stops before it reaches that next development, then it's obvious that the developer doesn't have the right to cross it. Obviously, the design engineer felt that the servitude went to the next development. So if there's a dispute there, then you're going to have to resolve that, through the court system, I would suspect.
Yeah. Well, let me ask y'all this.
Yes, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Washington, did you have something?
Go ahead. I'm learning.
I heard that you were promised twice that gravity sewer lines would be placed in that subdivision. Who promised that?
It's actually the documentation we signed. I don't have a copy of it with me, but when we signed the documentation to give up the additional servitude, this was done in 2010, but it was
City of Denham.
I do have that information. I showed that information to the attorney that visited my office. They did sign a petition back in 2008, maybe, giving the city 15 acres to run sewer.
And the city just hadn't responded. But
So I have that on record.
and this is what we were told.
Well,
The line came as far as the entrance of our subdivision, which is directly across the street is Grace Creek Elementary School and Highway 1033. They went up 1033 and they ran out of money. And we haven't heard anything since on that. And again, that was my concern is literally we're going to have 321 houses with all these utilities right across the fence from our subdivision. There's nothing that the developer and the city can work out to pacify both of us. We're letting them do what they need to do to make $500,000 in tax money. They need to help us get the utilities we need before somebody gets exposed to raw sewage. And that's our biggest concern is we're on well water. That is our only option.
How far away are they from a gravity flow line?
Well, the whole subdivision is going to theoretically gravity flow to some lift station, and then from that lift station, wherever it is, I hadn't seen the plans. It's going to pump.
I mean, is it possible to?
Well, it could be. It could. I would suspect in most cases the lift station is going to be probably right at the edge of that subdivision.
No, sir. It's actually, and I've got the drawings.
It's in the subdivision.
It's going to be in the middle of the subdivision. And the way I understand, all the gravity-fed stuff will go there, and then it'll be the pressurized that comes all the way back across the subdivision through our neighborhood.
To
out to Highway 16, which is where the...
Is it going to pump to another lift station there? Do you know? Is it going to tie into another force main? You don't know.
No,
I mean, the situation is with all these, the way they're doing sewer now is with lift stations and force main and everywhere, that you've got to drain to a lift station. And if there's not a lift station nearby, you ultimately have to drain, then one would have to be installed. And so I can't speak for the city of Denham, but I would guess the economics of 30-something homes and the sewer impact fees and they wouldn't get sewer impact fees because they gave them the right of way. The revenue from 30 homes wouldn't offset what their costs were. I mean, I'm not saying that's right. I'm just telling you what I suspect the situation is. And so that's why they chose to be out of money and not put that in at this point in time.
Well, and that wasn't the only place, though. They have other subdivisions down there that, just like them, they gave right away, and they've never had anything done. Just like at the end of Green Acres, they went halfway down Green Acres. Then they said they ran out of money, so it stopped right there. And all the back half of it, there's nothing.
And so, you know, and the shame of it is because of actions of the past, those areas have been designated to be serviced by the city of Denham. So consequently, the only way those people are going to get sewers for the city of Denham. I mean, that's kind of why we merged the sewer district to try to become aggressive in selling bonds to expand sewer within the parish so that we don't end up with those situations in the future.
Somebody else need to speak?
Yes. Thank you.
You know, if I may, Jeff, just to kind of talk a little bit about what this gentleman, I have spoken to the mayor 3 different times about this thing. And I was told today that he is going to send some body, some person, to get this mechanism moving on trying to get you guys sewer down. Well, he definitely entertains the thought, but there again, you know, it's got to.
And look, Mr. Sam, both sewer and water are concerned about it, are priority for that.
Sure.
Right now, I would love to have water before they start flowing effluent from 321 houses through my yard. That's primary number one. If the sewer is a year or two down the road, we can live with that. But the water contamination is a very viable.
Where are you getting water from now?
Well,
They got wells.
What about the development? Where is it?
it's going to have city water.
Well, is it going to have Denham Springs water or is it going to have Ward 2 water?
That I don't know.
Down there is Ward 2.
Ward 2 there.
Is that Ward 2 water? So in essence, Ward 2 could easily. Well, I mean, Ward 2's a subdivision of parish government. And so sometimes we don't always do everything that's most economical if we need, you know what I'm talking about? So maybe we need to, as a council, maybe pass a resolution asking Ward 2 to encourage Ward 2 to run a line down this people's street so they can tie into.
I agree. So on the force main, they're going to put grinder pump stations in all the new houses?
No,
that's left up to, they don't want any, it's not very practical, and I'm not an engineer, I've just learned a lot about sewer in the last 2 weeks. It's not practical to tie into a force main because of pressure. It's nothing but trouble. I think it's in the law.
I have one, and that was the point I was going to make. It's moot now. I was going to say, if that's what you're pushing for, you don't want that.
No,
you don't want that.
I think what they're trying to do is get somebody to come, get the city of Denham to come lay a gravity line in that additional 15 feet that they gave them years ago, which is what the original discussion was from 08, I believe.
And I know this doesn't help these folks out here, but you know, the original plan was to come from Joe Lake to the force main. And there was no place to tie the force main into to get it to the city of Denham.
Right.
So they found this manhole out in the Boy Hood, and that's where they tied all this force main to and going to a.
So they're going to force that to that manhole, then gravity feed from that manhole?
Well, and Mr. Sam, I have to disagree with you on part of that because I know the school on Brown Road has that. Brown Road is one of the entrances to this subdivision. It's a straight shot to the school. So they had other options.
That's what I was told, because when we first began on the project, I think Mr. Harris was in it. We were on Joe May on bringing that sewer through that. But then for some reason or another, the city said we had, I think it was, that we don't have anything to do with it. We declared right away that we facility. They move forward with the project.
What's the name of the subdivision that this force main is being installed?
Hidden Lake. Sam, I would like to get with you next week, and you and I go have a meeting with the mayor.
Yeah.
You know.
So, with the information that we have out there now, you can't, what you're saying, you can't tie into a force main, right?
No.
So, inevitably, that option, which was never an option, apparently, is off the table. So really, what you're requesting is, well, the only solution would be for Denham to run that gravity
line down.
All right. Well, with all that information intact, and you got two issues here. One, whether the road is actually you're going to cross private property, which is kind of out of our realm of authority, and whether Denham's going to run, which is also out of our realm of authority. So, I mean, I hate to oversimplify it, but I mean, we can request Denham the city of Denham Springs to go do it, but we really
request them to do it. I think we can go sit down with the mayor of Denham.
Absolutely.
Try to work something out. You know?
But there may be grants out there that they could apply for.
Sure. I'm just saying that if all things considered, bless you, all things considered, like, you know, we...
You know, Joel has a good point. You know, we need to ask for it to entertain the thought, because the water's the biggest problem.
Well, okay.
Everybody's afraid of it, and I can understand that. And they're in liability now.
Well, sure.
Now, I think you have both ends, and you have drainage, sewer going out to these ditches. So, with all that being said, you could still have that sewer get into your water and get your problem. Now, this force main, and I don't have a problem. This force main, if you detect a leak, you're going to see that with that pressure.
No, sir, you will not.
That's what this. I mean, the engineers. I've talked to these engineers.
And I seen the response where you said there won't be any leaks. If there's a problem, the line will blow out.
Yes.
Well, I've got 30 years in the petrochemical and refinery industry. I'm a millwright. I work on pumps. I know pipes. That you don't have enough pump to blow that line apart. That will never happen. You deadhead the entire system. That pipe will never separate. But it will leak. It will seep. All you have is a rubber gasket that seals it. It's going to be a slow leak.
So
I'm not very much. Let's let Mr. Troy come up and
Speak before we. Let's let the other one speak real quick so we can move on. Troy, you want to come up?
I'm trying to send a text message to the Ward 2 people right now. Is Garney Hood, Melanie Lane, and Priscilla Lane the three streets that need water put on them?
Melinda.
Which other one?
Melinda Lane.
Oh, Melinda, I'm sorry.
And it's called Single Acre. It's 3 streets, and that's the whole city.
In single acres.
We did not flood.
No, that's fine.
they're all three on the.
I mean, that's what I wanted to make sure. But when I sent this text, I wanted to know how to identify them where we.
Do we think it'd be a good idea just to pass a resolution for them to take a look at it?
Let's do it. Let's let these.
Finish talking. State your name, your address.
My name is Troy Schultz. My address is 11786 Melinda Lane, Denham Springs, which is located in Single Acre Subdivision. Been a resident there since 1904. Been a resident of Livingston Parish since 1981. Mr. Jean hit a lot of the spots that I was going to talk about, and y'all addressed many of the concerns. Getting back to the first time that we were promised, it was by word of mouth only. And that was by Mr. Buddy Mincy, which I commend the man. Always helped us out, time of need. Assured us that whenever they hooked up the elementary school, Grace Creek Elementary, and ran the sewer line down past Mr. Bubba Harris, that we were going to get it. And then when that did not happen, he did come back and apologize to me personally and said that we ran out of money. So that was the case there. And the second time was, y'all already addressed this, whenever the city of Denham Springs came back seeking a right-of-way, which I believe 10 residents signed that, and out of 30 residents signed that. The reason why that didn't happen, I think they did a survey, a cost survey at their payback on servicing 37 homes. The biggest cost in that would be the lift station itself with the pumps, along with the force main tying in at the Highway 16. So that's why that was not completed. But now I think that if they can gravity flow tie into a developer's system, that they might consider it. We just need some help with that. And I know y'all might not have no authority, but I appreciate Mr. Harris saying he was going to get with Mr. Sam and go talk to the city folks. So, as Gene stated earlier, the main concern is water. We'll work on the sewage later. I believe that the water can happen. The reason why is, like he said, from a health standpoint, by tying into the city water, that water is sampled on a daily basis. Okay, they have to meet DHH requirements in maintaining potable water. A residual chlorine value from 0.5 to 4 parts per million is maintained. It's required to be maintained to kill pathogens and other stuff that can cause health issues for our drinking water. So I think that's a good move. If y'all can help us with that, that would be a big step. And from an environmental concern, is eventually tying a drain line or sewage can get there. Another concern of the residents was a safety factor. Safety factor being the road being tied into our subdivision, allowing 300 residents plus the extra residents that reside off of Joe May, Brown Road, the through traffic. During peak hours, we already experienced a delay in accessing Highway 16. Traffic is very heavy right now. So when I went to go to Mr. Harris's house, he showed me some paperwork that I requested from him that would never happen because y'all have it on an ordinance. But at the end of it, it says that the parish council can vote on it and override it. So what we'd like tonight, maybe, or if you want to do a motion to guarantee the residents that that tie-in won't happen at the end of Melinda Lane or at the end of Gorneywood, allowing throughfare to do that. That would help ease the safety concern for the residents.
As far as I know, you can't. You've just limited what this body can do. They're all sub-agencies, so you could pass a resolution in support of what they're asking.
Yeah.
Or saying that no, something could never be tied together in the future.
It also could be undone with the vote of this council. So, I mean,
something else, Roy, that I've been looking. I haven't seen a plat or layout of the subdivision, but there's a lot right there at the end of that street, and they build a house on it, they'll never have any traffic going through there.
You are correct in saying that. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. That if no houses are on at that time, and then the developer says, "Hey, I need to do a tie-in," and those lots are available, as long as it's not more than 5% of the total lots there, they don't have to come before the council. If I am correct in saying it. So that's why I want to propose this, just in case, to protect the safety of the people that reside in there. 300 homes, that's 600 plus cars. You might be looking at 1,000 3 years from now, you know? And you've been down our road.
Oh, I know.
In the back, it's wide. Mr. Sam can vouch for this also. The back end can support it. The front end can't. But then again, like I said, we already experienced delays trying to get on how, and you're talking 37 homes, 80 people. So I like, you know, something moved to that motion.
Looking at the map, what I think proposed development, State Highway 16, Gilmay Road, Brown Road. Traffic study been done on that? Because where's safety? Might not like what I'm about to say, but it might be the safest route to take that traffic out of Highway 16.
No, sir.
No?
You don't know Highway 16.
Well, what I'm saying is maybe they need to widen those parish roads or something out.
No, that's not possible to do with that.
No.
Okay.
The road.
You think it's better to go down Brown Road and Joe May?
You can hardly pass 2 vehicles.
Well, what I'm saying is that we might need to look at maybe improving that parish road, because I mean, think about it. I mean, Joe May and Brown, those are very curvy, long, crowded parish roads.
They're curvy, but they like Joe May Road. If you go down and hit Hammock Road, you can go either way, 16 or Walker South. Yep. If you go up north on it, you can go out Walker South up that way. So you've got more.
You know they were better than me. I was just saying.
Yeah,
it looks like on the map to me it's shorter
to flow over there than you do in 16.
Definitely.
You had mentioned something. You were saying if they need to put the access through that lot that there is no house on right now, that they don't have to come back before the council to do so?
You're not making that significant change.
But it has to be more than 5% change.
But, Chris, can you pass a resolution where from this point forward, never happen?
No.
I didn't think.
But you can pass it to where they have to come before us. We pass a resolution to say they have to come before us for where they make any changes.
Choose to do something different.
Well,
Can we pass a resolution to declare Melinda Lane on that end as a dead-end street?
I second that motion.
I can say I'm not comfortable doing that without looking at it completely.
We're not traffic engineers.
Yeah.
And so for us to start routing traffic around without somebody studying it, this seems to be, there's an ordinance created for particular situations. And look, we've talked about it before. I've got it in my district. Y'all have got it in y'all district. We really need to, I know these people don't, I know y'all don't want to hear what I'm about to say, but connectivity is something that we really need to be looking at in this parish as something that if you build next to another subdivision, you ought to tie into it. I know people don't want to hear that, but from a pure safety point of view, the people that live in the back on Priscilla and Melinda, if something happens on Garney Hood, they're stuck. There's no other way out. At least if the other subdivision was tied in, you would have an egress, and they would have an egress too. I'm not.
I want to be clear. I'm not saying I'm against it about making it to where it's a dead end, but I'm not comfortable making that vote tonight without looking at it without a study, without an.
I'm gonna tell you what I am comfortable with doing. I am comfortable with making a motion on the resolution to ask Ward 2 to do whatever they can do to service those roads. And matter of fact, I'm on a group text with a couple of those guys right now because they were asking exactly where this is, and I'm letting them know that, you know, if Hidden Acres is already going to be serviced, you know, with Ward 2 water, and it butts up to the back, then if there's a utility servitude that would allow those streets to touch, then water could be brought, you know, and all the way down. I don't think that's an issue. But if they do that, Sam, is the law that if they go run water through there, everybody's got to tie into it? I mean, if they run water through your front yard, do they have to tie into it? I mean, it's going to.
Do they have to?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Well, I mean, I guess the situation is being. I think most of them won't. Well, I think the thing is, I mean, Ward 2's got to evaluate the whole deal. There's going to be a tremendous cost for them to run the water line. They would need pretty good participation to even justify it, because it's probably going to take a long-term
mandatory participation. There is a utility that runs in front of your house. You have to connect. You have to give them reasonable time to do so.
And we don't have that at this point in time.
That is an option, and that does make the service more efficiently when they can service everybody. And it gets the sewer out of the business.
I mean,
that's something to be.
I'm comfortable with making a resolution asking Ward 2 to evaluate and try to run, you know, water to Single Acres.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, there's going to have to be some give from Single Acres to, if they decide to do that, to know that we're going to get pretty good participation, you know, to tie in. Otherwise, I mean, it's already going to be a marginal, you know, it's probably, if from a business point of view, it's probably not a good investment. But governments do things all the time to help their citizens that aren't always good business investments, but it solves a need. You know what I'm talking about? So, but at the same time, if Ward 2 does that, they're going to have some, you know, give back from the citizens that said, yes, we'll tie in, so that, you know, they could try to recoup some of their expenditure, which would solve an immediate problem. It's not going to solve every problem, but it might take a concern away. And then
to the resident down there myself, I get that most of them are ready to tie in the water.
And so, I mean, John just texted me back, sorry, where is this? And I just told him it was down by Bubba's house, the development's on Joe May and Single Acres off Highway 16, but butts up to Hidden Acres. Because that's an accurate description of where.
Right.
Oh, Hidden Lakes. Okay.
Let's go with Gary's motion.
I second that motion.
I mean, I think we need to pass a resolution just basically, you know, asking, encouraging, however y'all want to word it, to Ward 2 water to service Single Acres off of Hidden Lakes.
Yes.
Off the Hidden Lake subdivision, and then, you know, they can run some cost estimates and figure out what it is, and I'm sure they're going to come to y'all and probably try to pre-sign every, you know, see about who would do it as they make that evaluation. I mean, but
review and determine if it's feasible, you know.
I mean, I think I'm comfortable with that. Sandy, how about?
We got a motion from Gary.
Second from Shane. Huh?
Seconded from Shane.
To ask Ward 2 to study the feasibility of running a water line to Single Acres from Hidden Lakes.
Also, you might want to ask the city of Denham Springs, how far would it be to tie here in with their water? Is it? I know Denham Springs goes to Bubba's house. They go down 16. I don't know how far. But
they go all the way to the school.
You might ought to talk to the city of Denham Springs and say, you know, see which one's easiest to tie in, is what I'm saying. Denham might tie in with water as well. So, you know, and in Denham Springs, I know you're located in what's called Denham Springs Sewer District 1. And that sewer district, they would want the water because that's how they would enforce the sewer bills through the water. So talk to the city, the mayor or the council of Denham Springs. I spoke with them the other day, and I was telling them about the problems here. And I think, and let me ask you a couple of questions. That development subdivision, they're running a force main across your properties, correct?
Correct.
Through the servitude.
Parish servitude.
Okay. But those property owners also signed over right away whenever the city of Denham Springs District, Sewer District 1 came through there to put lines, correct or no? Okay, they did.
The city.
So here's my question, or my thoughts. I spoke with the mayor, and he told me, now, again, this is second to you getting water. I think water should be your first priority. Go get water either with Water to the city, get the best, talk to both of them, present to them how many customers they can get and the money they're going to make. Pick the best one. But with the sewer, I think Denham Springs is going to be the one to provide that, but is that line still open? Have they laid that force main yet?
They're in the process of laying it. The majority of it is laid through our subdivision.
Okay, well, I talked to the mayor, and I said there is no, it seems to me I was actually on the Denham Springs Sewer District 1 board years ago when they started acquiring those servitudes down there. And so back in the day when I was on there, and I know, and I feel pretty confident, if you spoke with the mayor and the Ward 2 City District 1 sewer, and it seems very possible that when they dig that ditch and they lay that force main, they could just as well and as easy lay a gravity main in there and let you tie in. I don't understand why, if just a little bit of communication between the mayor of Denham or the city of Denham and the residents, they want your money. And so I really think, and he said, John, tell them to call me. So if no one has reached out to Denham Springs, so please reach out to them on the sewer. Again, I think that's second to you getting water. But you need to talk to them. I think he said, Jonathan, if the ditch is laid, the developer's laying the pipe, we can force him to buy the pipe if needed to tie into their system. They want the Denham Springs to take that sewer from the subdivision. So the mayor of the sewer district says, we'll tie you in, but you're going to lay a gravity line for these people here. He could just as well do that to allow them to tie in. So you've got a big stick there, to try to get that developer, put a little bit of money to help the residents in your
Troy,
area.
Sam and I can get a meeting, Mayor. Would you like to go?
Yes, sir. I would like to.
Well, yeah. Both of y'all.
Mr. Chris, too. Could we require that development to come before us if they make any significant change to keep them from? That's what I would like to instead. Yes. Instead of just saying you can't ever do it, just say you got to come to us before you can do it.
That's fine, Tracy, but as long as I'm there.
Yep.
Traffic won't come through on. I can make sure if there's any changes, this is our review engineer, Mr. Preston Brown. Preston does all of our review work, and he is the one that reviews this code. So before anything is done, I can But you can go ahead and still make that resolution.
Okay. Well, we need to vote on that other resolution. Let's vote.
We can go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the floor right now for asking Ward 2. But we had a motion from Mr. Talbot, second from Mr. Mack. Ms. Saney, you call for the vote on that?
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack? Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Step back.
Mr. Garland?
Just voting yes. Jeff, let me correct something I said.
Okay.
It's been pointed out to me that we do have a requirement in your code of ordinances. It requires all inhabited premises and buildings located within 300 feet of an approved public water supply or wastewater system shall be connected to such supply, provided that the property owner is legally entitled to make such a connection. parish president or parish council may grant permission to use water or wastewater from some other source. This is in compliance with the state sanitary code.
So if Ward 2 ran that line or the city of Denham ran that line, then those residents would have to tie into the water line.
Right there within 300.
Within 300.
Right.
And what about in respect to the main that's running right now? That's within 300.
That may apply. I'd have to look.
But there's a main running down in that utility now.
It's a low pressure main that is running. That is a utility.
Well, if there's a main,
That's the case, we are within that 300 feet. So therefore,
You talking about the force main?
yes, sir.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, but-
That's a utility.
well, but I mean, the deal is to tie into that force main, every house would have to put a lift station in.
Mr.
And
Talbot, cannot tie into a low pressure main. It would have to provide a gravity.
Right, I mean, I understand.
To tie into
Right.
the developer's subdivision. I don't know if we have to get permission, right? Because it's still in the developer's control. If you would allow that.
No, that's going to eventually be turned over to the city.
The problem is
Once that's been tested and approved.
They could make it time.
I don't know about the elevation. I mean, there's so much engineering that would go in to figure out the elevation would let a gravity. The problem is, I'm not sure there's probably not an elevation to start at 16 and run a gravity line back to that development and tie into their lift station. There's probably not enough drop to make that work. There's probably not enough elevation for that gravity line to go in. So in essence, for single acres to get sewer, they would have to drain to some lift station and pump out, because I'm sure there's probably not enough elevation there to drain to some existing lift station now.
Right. Well, Mr. Halber, I'm no engineer, but just from looking at the elevation, without physically taking an engineer measurement, single acres, it could gravity feed to the developer's catch basin. As far as Gorney Hood, I believe they can gravity feed 16.
Okay. I mean, and that'll have to be.
Yes, and that has to be determined by.
Right, but I mean,
They have engineers there to decide that. Right. They'll do all that work for you.
can we go?
So we've already voted for the water. We got another motion on the floor?
Yeah.
What about
Mr. Sam said he's not gonna let it slip by, but I would like to make a motion that any changes that this developer wants to do, it has to come before us.
You talking about specifically
in respect to that road.
You're talking about specifically if the developer wants to tie into. What streets would it be?
It would be Melinda Lane
and Priscilla Lane
and Gorney Hood.
So
yeah, it's a small thing for us to just review it again.
So the motion would be if they want to tie into Melinda or Gorney Hood, they'd have to come back before the council.
That's correct.
Right. I'll second that.
It's currently not in the plans?
It's currently not in the plans.
Can they even tie in?
Well, so, I think right now,
so they would. So if they connected their subdivision to Melinda or Gorney Hood, they would have to come back before the council.
Fair enough.
I think, I'm no lawyer either, but I think that you need to look at the new subdivision rules. If there is less than a 5% change, you do not have to come before this council.
There's 4
Lots, that's correct.
There's 4 criteria. One of them is the subdivision lot.
Yeah, but by doing this, we'll be sure that they have to come before.
Mr. Sam.
It would be for sure.
Like I say, I haven't seen a plat of the subdivision, but I know that now set up where all your subdivisions like that have to have ingress and egress. Well, this one has one right now. It's got one showing on the plat.
Are we talking about the new development?
Yes.
There's two.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, there's two. But one of them hadn't been touched yet.
Okay, so, but based on the discussion earlier about the sewer line, it doesn't even, there seems to be some discrepancy as to whether the parish right of way even will touch the new subdivision. So if that's the case, there's no way they could make that connection.
Whoever has that property can.
I mean, basically, they feel like that where they're running the force main through a section that's private property now that's not part of a servitude, so or right of way. So in essence, if there's no right of way there, there's no way they can tie the road into there.
Yeah, but I think that's up for debate.
Here can 100%.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. They don't really know.
So that's why.
So just to clarify here,
well, I mean, but it doesn't mean that there won't be some. If you're determined that they cross your property, they will have to make some restitution about that in the future. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they'll make them dig it up, but I don't know. I don't know what.
I assume this was a utility grant that you grant ordinarily when you put things in your right of way. You require them to move it at your request if it's ever needed.
Right.
And to be responsible for any damages that it causes. So that's what we require. This brings to mind that you ought to be a little more careful in granting these, because this could be a high pressure gas line, and then maybe we ought to have more input about the neighbors who are being impacted by these kind of right-of-way decisions.
Right. I think this was done. Was this done? How long ago was this done? Was this done? Was this right-of-way brought to this council or the previous council to approve that sewer line? This council approved it?
It was approved on March the 8th.
Of this year?
What's the two
Of this year.
entrances and exits? Two current. They have. I think she's going to run some copies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have a motion? Hey, do we have a motion on the floor?
I wanted to.
We have a motion. We're trying to figure out if we need to do it or not.
If we put the motion in place, you're just for the extension of that road. Then you're saying that would be an introduction. That would be a major change. We'd have to do it twice, an introduction, or we could just do it.
No, I don't know if necessary. Currently important. But we try layout. It is.
All right, but just for their peace of mind.
It gives them a good warm fuzzy feeling.
I make a motion.
I'm with you, Jason. I'm with you.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Garlinghouse. A second from Mr. Harris. Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
And this, what is this, a resolution that we need drainage?
No.
The road.
This is the road.
You need any roads? Can you repeat what you?
Gotta keep this road.
A motion if they want to extend. Let me out here, Troy.
Okay, if they want to tie in the Hidden Lake subdivision to Melinda Lane or Gorney Hood Road, that they would have to come before the parish council
To get approved.
to get it approved.
Yes.
Let me just make one more comment.
Okay.
If he just pulls a lot out of that development to create a road, he does not have just one lot, I think it's road. Now, safeguard is if there's any change,
Okay.
any change, regardless of what it is,
Well, let's swim in that river. Any changes? I make a motion that any change whatsoever occurs with this development, it has to come back
Got
before this
that?
council.
I had that originally.
Okay, any changes? All right, so you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Lobel. Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack. Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Waspling.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, who's the engineer of record on this development? Okay.
Okay,
So they're the engineer of record on the development, and they're the engineer for the city of Denham on the sewer.
I don't think Alan come to original.
what's the question?
Who's the engineer of record on the development? AFA? And AFA is also the engineer for the City of Denham Sewer Department?
They were at the time we just established District 1.
Yes, they are.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure we were, it's the same, that's fine. I was just,
Get them in on that meeting, too. They can help you.
just out of curiosity, I want to make sure that we look at the same engineering firm that helps with the City of Denham stuff could probably expedite this thing, especially if they've made a mistake on a servitude. I guarantee they can help. So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Troy. We need to move on, move to item 10, which is Parish President's report, and he's not here to report. Office of Homeland Security, Mark Harrell, nothing to report. Item 12, we are now entering a public hearing. This is adoption of LP Ordinance number 18-18, removal of abandoned and or inoperable vehicles. Mr. Mack, do you have something on this? Or?
I do. Currently, we have an ordinance that details the specifics of removal of abandoned and or inoperable vehicles. It details, defines what that is. What I understand, before we start taking action on moving abandoned and inoperable vehicles, wanted to ensure that we could, I guess you could say, protect the property owner's investment. So we want to make some changes to this new ordinance. One is going to make sure that if an inoperable vehicle is towed, that it goes to a secure yard, a designated piece of property that is enclosed by a fence, a barrier, at least 6 foot high. Prevent others from damaging that property. In addition to that, we want to say that all abandoned and or inoperable vehicles that are removed under ordinance will be moved by a state licensed wrecker service, protect that property, and the wrecker will be dispatched from a rotating wrecker list established by the Director of Public Works. So, I know this is written as a new ordinance, but basically this is just modifications of the current ordinance. And if anybody needs a copy of the current ordinance, I think we have some printed. Does anybody have any questions?
So, okay. So we introduced the ordinance at the last meeting, which was different than this ordinance, or the same?
No, it is the identical. We attempted to. That's what I can say. We attempted to do that. There was some discrepancy on how we did that, and we needed to go back and reintroduce.
So Chris is gone. Do we need to reintroduce, or can we amend what we did before in this ordinance here? Do you know?
It's not really going to hurt anything to reintroduce. So I recommend.
So we're not going to act on 12. We're just going to reintroduce it as in 13. Go ahead.
Sir?
Yep.
We had advertised that we were going to have a public hearing on this, put it in the paper, we announced it at the last meeting. Therefore, we have to have a public hearing. That's why this was put up. So if anybody did want to speak at that public hearing, they had that opportunity. But once it's closed, we can reintroduce it and make sure it's introduced in the proper way.
Okay.
So right now we're in a public hearing. But do we have anyone from the public that needs to speak on this?
Hello, Shane. Hey. Gordon Courtney, 31246 Old Baton Rouge Highway, Albany. I just have a couple of questions. I know this ordinance that you're working with is from 1997, so I realize that, I don't know if Mr. Harris was involved or not. Okay, it was a different Harris apparently. Okay, so.
They didn't have a record back when Marshall, when Bubba was on the council.
That stone tablet in the hall?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Anyway,
you watched the Flintstones?
I do have a couple of questions. Who's going to determine what resident has his vehicles removed from his property. Because it's going to be a major undertaking for any department to go out there and remove every abandoned and inoperable vehicle from this parish. So if I have my vehicles removed, which I don't have any, but if I have my vehicles removed and I see a guy 2 streets away still has his, how am I supposed to feel? So is this council going to be the one to pick winners and losers? How is it going to be funded? Who's going to go out there and determine that vehicle is not an antique, that vehicle is not going to be repaired in 30 days, that vehicle is, truly abandoned or inoperable? Who's going to make that determination and at what cost? And, here again, I think we're opening things up for someone's opinion to determine whether or not someone loses their private property. And then I'd like to know, since 1997, how many vehicles have been removed under that ordinance that was put in place in 1997? And at what cost to the parish? So I'm all for progress. I believe that, there are things that could be done that would help my property value increase. Drainage would be one of them, again, but there are a lot of blighted homes out there. There are mobile homes and campers that have been left, that have the sides torn off of them, that I guarantee you decrease the property value every bit as much as 2 old Ford trucks sitting in somebody's yard. So my question is, are we going to address, is the council ready to address that as well?
What we're doing here, we're creating a situation that we can go get mobile homes, whatever. I mean, it's not just, it's anything that moves. I mean, the effort, the problem is because of these particular situations not being in there, it's been a problem in the past to go do it. These changes are at the recommendation of the Director of Public Works, because he has a person that can go address these issues, but he needs to legally be able to do it, and that's what these deals are for. And the cost of the parish is negligible, nothing, because the operator that's on the list is going to go grab it, put it to his yard, and if you want it, you're going to come pay for it. If not, he's going to gain title to it and going to crush it or sell it or whatever he wants to do with it. But I mean, that's how the situation works. It's not going to cost the parish anything to do it, other than the manpower of somebody that's already on staff. Am I correct, Sam, in telling you that?
And we have instituted a compliance, or we work on this case. And we will thoroughly research the situation before we enter on anyone's property, before any type of.
But isn't there something in the ordinance that states that if someone is given an order to remove or abate the vehicle and they don't comply within 15 days, they're subject to a $500 fine?
There is some language in the ordinance, but it never was clear. It never, as far as I know, never did.
Well,
I wanted to
all these amendments are doing is going to allow the compliance department to get a vehicle towed or a mobile home towed or whatever they need to get towed to clean something up. At this point in time, they can't do that.
We can't just get it on somebody's.
Yeah. Not a mobile home, motor vehicle.
Yeah.
It says inoperable vehicles.
Motor home. What do you say? Not mobile home.
Yeah, motor home.
Motor home. Motor.
Yeah.
Perhaps a motor home, but not a mobile home.
Correct.
And that's one of the big problems. But there is, Section 6 of the ordinance says failure to comply, failure or refusal to comply with the provisions of this chapter shall constitute a misdemeanor, and the violator shall be subject to the issuance of a misdemeanor summons. Penalty shall be a fine up to $500 or 60 days imprisonment, or both for each violation.
But that $500 fine doesn't remove that vehicle, and typically they'll assess it on, I would assume some kind of property, like if you sell it, still the vehicle doesn't move, the issue isn't being addressed. Fines don't affect a lot of people. You go grab that vehicle and bring it off, well, then the problem's solved. So that's the whole point of this, is to get the broken down, just junky vehicles out of our neighborhoods and out of our public dwellings, and thus improving your property value. And he's got a department. They're going to assess these things. They're going to be the ones who decide. They're going to look at it and they're going to and he said they're going to be very exhausted. They're going to be very adamant about making sure everything is right before they go on someone's property.
But my question is, what is the engine that's going to drive or direct his department to
complaints?
Area.
Okay, for example, if my neighbor got a junky car and I call the complaint in, then they're going to address it.
Okay.
If nobody calls a complaint in, then your junky car can sit there forever until somebody complains. That's going to trigger the compliance department to go out there and review it.
Okay.
And believe me, that'll happen.
Is that they are very thorough, and in some cases, they're not as quick as I'd like to see, but they're probably covering all their bases and doing it what they need to do.
And essentially, what you're saying is, other than the cost of his manpower and his department for that purpose, there's no additional cost.
We got the guy already. He's already there. So whether he addresses no problems or 10 problems a day, he's costing the parish the same thing.
Same money.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Is there any more comment on this item? All right, public hearing is now closed. No more comment from the council on this?
I have one thing. You saying it's a 6 foot high? I think we need to change that to at least an 8 foot high.
I mean, we might not have any.
Record yards in here already have to have a 6 foot high.
They need 8 foot too.
Well,
then you
that's a different ordinance. We don't need to create a situation. We don't need to create a situation where nobody can comply with the storage, and then we defeat the whole purpose of the ordinance. If we want to address the 8 foot,
do we need to vote on this one at all?
Look at that. Let another time.
Look at the storage then and change that ordinance.
So we can move on to.
Cars are already behind no fence. 6 foot's better.
So we can go to the reinstruct. Okay, we're done with the public hearing now. So we're going to move to item 13, which is the reintroduction of the ordinance for the removal and inoperable vehicles. So, Ms. Sandy, you want to read by title?
Sure. Can we keep the ordinance number that we previously assigned to it?
Yeah.
This is ordinance 18-18, an ordinance to amend chapter 5.5 environment section 5-30 by amending the secure yard by adding section 5.5 removal of abandoned and operated vehicles over public hearing will be at 16.
I'll make the motion.
We got a motion by Mr. Talbot.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Avery. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, 14, Planning Department. Sam.
Sam about to go to sleep. We got to hurry this thing up.
Okay, first on the planning department agenda is, and Public Works, is the approval of AFA change order number 2 on Dunn Road. If you want to act on that first, that's
I'll make the motion. Motion by Mr. Powell.
Mr. Harris. Is there any comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And I might add, just for some of the ones that didn't, I mean, this is a savings instead of an extra. This is a savings on some material that was used on the Dunn Road project. Next is the bridge project. This is in Mr. Scooter King's district. Something came up here a couple of weeks ago, brought to our attention. We had to address it. The bridge started moving. We shut it down. We felt like we had to tear it out, so I'll have to replace it. And I'm asking you guys to approve. And just to add a little bit to the feature, we're going to have to start getting engineers to qualify our pile driving, and that we've got to tell them how deep that we're putting these piles, these wooden bridges. So we're going to, the cost of this thing on this particular bridge, the bridge is $45,000, I'm sorry, and the engineering is $2,500 to qualify the piles that's going to be drove. We're going to build the bridge, but we're going to have a licensed, certified bridge builder to come in and drive the piling. So once that happens, then we'll take it from there on and do the work. That's why the cost of the bridge is not $45,000. So I would ask you guys for permission to spend that $45,000 plus the $2,500 for the engineering.
Got a motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Garlinghouse. And comment?
The reason this is so important is this is on Cutoff Road, which when probably crossover and crossover. And the reason the bridge probably failed is because during the Dunn Road bridge work, this was a heavily traveled area that normally doesn't see that much traffic. So, and then knowing that Dunn Road's on the Dunn Road is.
Hold. That's not what the item B is. 14B is accept and reject bids for Parish of Livingston Capital Improvement Program.
Oh, we on the wrong. We got to do the.
Oh, I thought you were going to address the bridge.
Well, that's all. That's on A.
That's all one motion.
It's all one motion on A. 14A.
Two items. One is
the Dunn Road Culvert and Bridge Project.
All right, so we already
crossover ties into Dunn. That's one project.
No, sir, that's two projects.
It's two projects, but we do it as an emergency on one line item. So it takes two motions. So we're just gonna we got a motion on the second item.
You got that, Sandy?
We voted first on the change order for the act. Now I'm asking you guys for approval to reconstruct the crossover bridge,
which was damaged because we had Dunn Road shut down and diverted all that traffic to it.
Right.
Do we need to lift the agenda because that's not on the agenda?
I'll make the motion to lift the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Talbot, second Mr. Garlinghouse to lift the agenda. Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel? Mr. Averett? Mr. Mack? Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Now.
The good thing, we've got a low bid in place for our capital outlay program.
Yep, we're going. All right, we had a.
Bubba got a motion. Bubba got a motion on the driving the pilings, and somebody seconded.
I think that was me.
Tracy seconded.
Bubba has the motion. Yeah. Mr. Garlinghouse has the second. That's to accept the bid for the bridge project on Crossover Road.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel? Mr. Averett? Yes. Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes. Make a motion, we go back in.
All right. Motion to go back into the regular meeting by Mr. Garlinghouse. Second by Mr. Talbot. Sandy, call the vote.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Lobel? Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
All right. Now, item 14B, Mr. Saint.
Accept or reject bids for the Parish of Livingston's capital outlay program, 2017. I would like to turn it over to our engineer of the project, Mr. Billy Taylor, Michael Taylor. We're ready to go to work.
All right. Billy Taylor, Macklin Taylor. This is the same project we discussed a few months ago, put out to bid. We had estimated, based off the linear footage, it'd be about 4.6 million. After we did the plans, thought it might be around that, maybe a little more. We got 5 bids in. range from $4.147 million to $4.855 million from all licensed contractors that met the requirements. So we recommend you accept the low bid from R.J. Daigle and Sons of $4,147,159.01.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, seconded by Mr. Avery. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Billy, you know what time how long they think it's going to take them to mow and start on the?
Yeah, from this point forward, we'll start. I'll go ahead and give them the contract early next week. They'll start working on their bond, insurance. We'll have a pre-construction meeting probably here in the next week or two. So I'm thinking first couple weeks of July they'll be out there on the ground. They're going to go and start ordering material right now.
So mid-July we should start seeing them doing some work on those roads that are on the overlay list.
Yes, sir.
The ones that have been approved.
Planning Commission recommendation.
Okay, first on the agenda is R. Let me get to it. Okay, RDP/FAM LLC subdivision with improvements. This is in Mr. Tab Lobell's district. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the subdivision with improvements for RDP/FAM LLC contingent on the guidelines are followed for the subdivision with improvements. And that's more or less having a drainage impact statement.
And that's because they've exceeded the number of lots.
Exceeded within that 2-year period. They went to 10 lots, and we asked for a drainage impact.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Gerlinghouse. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Next on the agenda is a subdivision with improvement, Manor Point, preliminary plat. This is in Mr. Jeff Avery's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Manor Point subdivision.
Motion from Mr. Avery to accept, second from Mr. Harris.
Billy, what's the standard on the sewer treatment plant there? Do you know? Are they going to, has DEQ determined what their discharge permit's going to be? And well, they got collection lines to an approved sewer. So they're just going to, the existing plant's got capacity for the new lots without amending it, and without adding to it?
I think if they got approval, I'll go back and check. Not built that they needed.
Okay.
All right, any more comments? All in favor? All opposed?
Next on your agenda is the Arnold Road townhomes, preliminary site plan. This is in District 3, Mr. Scooter King's area. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Arnold Road townhomes.
And whoever makes this motion, we need to make it with, to amend the agenda to say District 3. It actually says District 2 on the agenda.
Yeah. Kirsten, on this particular deal, it's right by the traffic circle by Carter's Grocery right there. Is there any way that, I mean, you're obviously going to have to do a traffic study there. Would you make those people turn right and go through the traffic circle to go back left, or do we stop people from trying to turn left right at the traffic circle? I mean, the state, when they put the traffic circle in, put a driveway there, but I'm just trying to, I mean, it's right at the circle.
So that'll all be determined by the state. So we don't.
You got no control over how they look? Okay.
You talking about the Carter's driveway?
I make the motion to change it to District 3 and approve the preliminary site plan.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Harris. Any comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion granted.
Next on your agenda is Shriver Investment Property Servitude Revocation. This is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, off Jubin Road. It's at the end of Penny Lane. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the servitude revocation for Shriver Investment Properties. All letters are in place. We have no objections from anyone. There's going to be a commercial.
He owns all the property around it.
There's going to be a commercial development done down there. At the end of Penny Lane, it's going to be some storage buildings, so they want the servitude and deal with it.
All right, that's a motion from Mr. Harris, second from Mr. Avery. Any comment from the public? Comment from the council? All in favor? All opposed? Five E. 15E.
The creative craft was deferred.
15E has been deferred.
Yeah, Sam, I see it was deferred. Where was that proposed location at? You know?
It was going to be a little arts and craft building. Where was it going to be?
Yeah, the location.
Right next to Wild Dog Saloon on Florida.
Got it. A big dog.
Big dog.
Big dog.
Big dog. Big dog.
Big dog.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sam.
I needed that one.
Okay, item 16, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver for a variant fence type chain link other than specified in section 13-67.1C to Best Stop number 25 located Highway 16 at Highway 42. Mr. Avery.
This is a customer of mine. Do I need to tell everybody it's a customer of mine?
Like,
I mean, I sell him fuel at two of his existing properties, and I'm going to sell him fuel at this property. Do I need to recuse myself or just make acknowledgement that he's a customer?
I think the safest thing would be to do.
Okay, I'm going to recuse myself on this particular situation.
I got a question. Are there at least 25 Best Stops in this parish?
Oh, more than that.
There's a bunch.
I'm not saying 25 in this parish, right here.
Yeah. Intangible Ho, there's a bunch of them.
And most of them Kathy's customers.
Yeah, I sold them.
Okay, we got
sold them a little fuel.
No, second.
a motion from Mr. Avery to accept this,
No,
seconded by Mr. Harris.
They're actually doing a great work on the
yeah.
to a chain link with slabs.
Right. I was looking at it right here.
And the neighbor agrees with it. They're both satisfied with it, the owner and the neighbor. So.
Any comment from the public on this? Any more comment from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Refusing or whatever.
Item 17, annual appointment of the Livingston Parish Official Journal, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
I'll make that motion. We appoint Livingston Parish Journal.
Livingston Parish News.
Livingston Parish News. Second. Otherwise known as Bill's.
Can I ask you a question? Chris.
Yes, sir.
You got it, man. I mean, why don't you just ask the question?
Yeah.
You're always allowed to ask.
We can't. No, well, I mean, we can't. We have to advertise in the newspaper. We can't put it on the internet and.
Well, there's been discussion of that, but as far as I know, that law hasn't changed. You guys must know. Yeah.
That's right.
They have a powerful lobby. You know.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I read the Denham Spring News once a week. I wish I'd read it twice a week because it's. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's you know.
It has to be published and distributed, and it has to be a newspaper.
Okay. All right.
That's the only one we have in the parish. So.
The only one that's offered.
Every resident
Right.
in our parish. That's why we have to use it. Correct?
Not to say the advocate doesn't do a fantastic job.
We had a motion from Mr. Watson.
I can't never do that.
We had a second from Mr. Mack. Yeah, we had a second from Mr. Mack. Any comment from the public? All in favor? All opposed? Item 18, board reappointment. Livingston Parish Library Board. And this is actually me. For Mr. Ronnie Bencast. If I could have someone to make that a motion for me. Motion from Mr. Harris. Second from Mr. Gerlinghouse. Is there any comments on this?
Mr. Ronnie Morris?
Bencast.
Bencast. Gotcha.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Item B, Mosquito Abatement Board. Appointments, Mr. Talbot.
We would like to appoint Kevin Romig as the fourth member to the board. And he's a resident of District 2 and would like to serve. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kevin Romig.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Averitt. Any comment from the public? Council? All in favor? All opposed?
He won't even support the board. I want to make, but I'll save us for council comments. Let's take just a second.
I call for the vote.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell. Rader.
Yes.
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 We got.
All right. Motion passes. Item 19, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver for the allowance of a second address to be issued for a mobile home for direct ascending, descending air on a lot that is 3,076.16 square feet short of the requirement, located at 30360 Highway 43, Albany, Louisiana. Mr. Mack.
Yes, Mr. Lawrence Pitner called me. I rode out to his property, which is right outside the city limits, North Albany. He would like to put a trailer for his daughter, who are here, they're both here tonight, on that same piece of property. Like you say, he's got about 28,000 square feet. I think it would take, if you were subdividing, it would take 16. He's not asking to subdivide. He's just applying for a second address to give his daughter a trailer on his property. I went and looked at it. It looks good to me. I'm asking that we grant him that waiver. I'd like to make that motion. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Mr. Lawrence is also here tonight, him and his daughter.
Second.
We got a motion from Mr. Mack, second from Mr. Watson. Is there any comment from the public? Any comment from the council? I do have a comment on this. I have recently shut down a couple of people for this same thing. So before I even vote, I want to let it be known that because I've shut people down, there's no way I could possibly vote. So I just want to let it be known why I make the vote the way I do. Nothing against anybody else, but it's kind of hard for me to tell somebody in my district no and vote for it in another district.
I have to echo that same. I've shut someone down for it. Now, they were grossly shorter than they're only 3,000 short.
Yours was like 16,000. I mean, I guess my question.
Yeah.
Well, the issue is the direct kin's the reason we would support it. The question is, if she moves out, is the second address going to go?
Hey, that is a great question. I appreciate you asking that, because I wanted to mention that earlier. They're going to be required to sign an affidavit, okay, because this is not an actual division of property. This falls under the family petition. And if there's ever a complaint, which I'm sure there will be, if it's not a direct kin, then we will have the authority to pull the meter, pull the occupancy permit, and get the trailer removed.
That's
a legitimate question. I appreciate.
I've supported the family petition deal as long as the address goes away if they leave.
State your name.
Crystal McNair. I'm living with my mom, but I want to live near him. Only 20% of his heart works. I don't plan on moving away. I want to take care of my dad. Because it's hard for my other siblings to do it because they all have family. I don't.
Okay. So Shane, we got a motion in a second?
Yep. That a motion from Mr. Mack.
I'll second it.
From Mr. Talbot. No, Mr. Moss.
Watson
was the second. All right, Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Lobel. Yes. Mr. Avery. Yes. Mr. Mack. Mr. Ard. Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
No.
Motion passes.
All right, item 20, request for a waiver intended for the allowance of permitting due to the restrictions of LP number 17-22, section 13-46.1. This is restrictions for the mobile homes. Sandy, do we have some of these?
Your district.
3?
Yep.
In your district.
And when I had you to cheat sheet, please.
Well, I see 3 pictures of the same place. I got 3 pictures of the same address.
I don't think anything's out there.
Looks like in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it does.
You want the maps too?
You need a motion to offer this variance, Joe? Or do you not want to do this?
I haven't even
Say
seen
what
these.
happened?
Yes.
Okay. One of the ladies at the permit office issued these permits already, and we were gonna ask the gentleman to come back in. But looking at the map, it's a little rural area. Pam had called you guys. It's been probably 3 weeks ago. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I do remember this. That's the one on Weiss Road. The one on Weiss Road,
Yep,
yes.
we're just ratifying and allowing them to get their permit, so they didn't have to come back in and wait 3 weeks. Because it was obvious it's not in the
Yes.
subdivision. Very
Yes.
obvious.
So I'm good with it. I'm good with it, yes.
Make a motion to offer a variance.
I'll second.
Motion from Mr. Wascom, second from Mr. Girlinghouse. Any comment from the public? From the council? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. 21, District Attorney report. Nothing to report. 22, committee reports. Ordinance Committee, Mr. Mack?
I'd like to say that, and get the opinion of the council, that it looks like, from what we read, House Bill, was it 539? Yeah, on the houseboats, required the houseboats to be registered and display the registration number on the houseboats. It's already against the law not to discharge raw sewer into the streams. At this time, just in my opinion, we probably could scratch the idea of needing a parish ordinance based on the passage of that House Bill 539. And let the state handle it. And we had talked about that in the past, and I just kind of wanted to make that comment, get everybody else's feedback.
I think that's a great thing, because I have a house.
Right.
I have a sewer system for my house.
Right.
And I cannot get insurance on it because it's not registered. Now, if I get it registered through the state, then I can get my insurance.
That's fantastic.
Shane, I am going to talk to Mark Harrell. I'm going to talk to Mark Harrell and make sure that covers all his concerns. And Jason Howard, make sure all his concerns are covered.
Go with that?
Excellent. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was
okay, good. I need to go back to item 20 so she could just read the addresses so they'll be on record for the trailers that we gave the waivers to.
The gentleman's name is Ronald Corona, and the subdivision is North Livingston Acres. The addresses are 30772 Weiss Road, 30776 Weiss Road, 30780 Weiss Road. Address in Walker, Louisiana, 70785.
Okay. Now, back to committee reports. Finance Committee.
We didn't have any new business. Jennifer said that the financials look good. We're actually above projections, what they thought. So the sales tax are up. Everything was better than expected. Yep.
We got.
We added, bring to council 28 the village renewal. Yeah, to introduce the ordinance on the 28th, so we can go ahead and follow them. Oh, yeah, the compliance questionnaire, Louisiana 2017 Louisiana compliance questionnaire. We do it every year.
So we do it now?
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2017 Louisiana compliance questionnaire.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Gardenhouse, second by Mr. Talbot. Any comments from the public on this? Council? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion accepted. Councilman comment.
I just want to note that the first board meeting of the Livingston Parish Mosquito Abatement District 2 and 3 will happen on the 20th in the council chamber at 7 o'clock.
Any more comments? We can go back.
No one. It's been forever. We were still just 2.5 hours.
Ma'am, did you have something you wanted to speak on?
You waited all this time for that?
I'm freezing right now. I apologize for the shorts. Catherine Warner. Is that all you need? I'm also from Single Acres. I just want to bring up a topic that wasn't brought up. We did not flood, and we were a little island that many of the men took their boats and rescued the people behind the school there, the elementary, Grace Creek, and the rest of us went door to door to each other and got them clothes and shoes and baby items and everything. And I just ask that when Hidden Lakes comes back to you with various requests, that you remember the little guys that have been here for a long time. We depend on you. We vote you in and we support you and we know you work hard. But we don't have the resources to get a lawyer when it's after the fact. And we've seen that happen repeatedly. And I just pray that all of us have learned our lessons from the flood, from the choices that all of us have made about prosperity and this and that. And it's a complicated situation. We understand that. But, you know, I'm not against progress, and I don't think anybody there is, but we can't. We don't have enough numbers to fight the big guys with the money. So we just ask you. And God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I apologize.
Motion to adjourn from Mr. Talbot. Second from Mr. Avery. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion adjourned.